So this is a series of games against this Paulson 007. We actually play, what, 5 games, 4 of them post board, and we play another match after this too, all Affinity. And I'm gonna count it as a 2-1 with some tests on the spreadsheet for tracking the data, because they do make a really bad misplay in the second game. But anyway, so first game. Oh, opening hand. Yeah, I got the lock. I have 2 lands. Um, I got Brutality to slow off quick decks, and I got Stirrings, and I do have the mana for the Stirrings and the Brutality. And if need be, I got Ghost Quarter for something like Tron if I need. Yeah, opponent scries to the bottom. I was really hoping that they would scry to the top so I can Shredder, but so I go for the Lantern first. And Steel Overseer, and I know immediately what I'm playing against. I'm feeling pretty good. So I know they don't have any 1-drops. That tells me that they had Platings, Ravagers, and I know they had the Steel Overseer. So, um, yeah, Shredder. And, yeah, I believe, yeah, it was Pixis, Brutality, Brutality, Shredder, and Lantern. Wait, a Swamp. So I grabbed the Shredder. I already have 3 mana, so I'm good on there. So I go ahead and grab the second Shredder so I can mill. I know that I could be on a clock, so I want to get into a bridge and needles. I was considering doing the Vault Scourge, but I decided not to. I mean, if they got creatures, they got creatures. Yeah, that makes sense. So there, try to get information, and that gives me my information. I'm more concerned with information than anything. Now, it might have been correct to kill the Ornithopter, but that Steel Overseer I knew could make things big quick, and I was afraid that I was not going to get a bridge in time. Then I saw that they did not play a third land, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they did not play a third land. So now I know, well, I knew anyways, I guess, because they discard. So I've got a little bit of time here. Yeah, there were 2 bridges in that top 5. Yep, so here comes some damage. Yeah, I don't need the Abrupt Decay, but I knew that I needed a Needle. So I play out the bridge to stop this, and I know they don't have colored mana, so it was safer to play bridge first. Yeah, I go ahead and grab the Decay. Try to lure out. Hey June, your laptop's in the dining room. Uh, Decay to try to force this, and then I can just Needle instead of the plating and not have to worry about Ravager. I did consider Ravager because there's a Ravager on top, but yeah, go ahead and do the plating. And chances are, I already killed 1 Ravager. There's another Ravager. The chances of my opponent having the rest of the Ravagers stacked for the next 3 cards, not likely. So, and sure enough, there's an Opal. So at this point, I know the game is over. There's a Tutor. And I grabbed Academy Ruins because I know I have a Shredder in the graveyard and I can start milling myself. And I can also start, sacking Shredder if I need to get Tutor back and so on. Yeah, we go to game 2. All right, opponent has Ancient Grudge in the opener. I mulligan this. I just did not feel comfortable with it. I knew that I could get a better hand than that. I mean, I'm running 4 needles post board, so now this is much better. So I scry, and it's a, what did I do? Yeah, they played before I was done scrying. Yeah, I kept it. Oh yeah, Glimmer Void. So I can make sure I have the 3 lands that I needed. Yeah, opponent plays Relic. I tried to tell my opponent later on that Relic doesn't really do much against me. It does something against a lot of other players who do the blind self mill if they don't have, even if they don't have ruins online. But to me, Relic does nothing. I didn't want to play Needle yet because I didn't know what my opponent's hand was. Yeah, Inquisition, they're tapped out, so now I can grab that Grudge. Now here I try to play really carefully because opponent knows that I have Needle, but I want to force them to use. They don't have much of a threat going on, so if I can force them to use Grudge on the bridge, then I can Needle the Ravager or the Steel Overseer and still be okay. Yep. No, so they didn't play Platings or Ravager because I guess because they're trying to keep that Grudge open. And I don't want that Academy Ruins. I mean, they got Relic anyway, so it's not going to matter. So I go to Ruins this, or Ghost Quarter the Spire to cut them off of mana to force them to try to play the Grudge. And of course, they do play the Grudge into the bridge. Did I know their hand at this point? Yeah, Inquisition. Yeah. So now I know I can name Needle, or play Needle naming Cranial Plating. Oh, and yeah, they go to sack Relic in response to my Needle. I'm like, okay. Now, the Galvanic Blast, I knew I was going to take some damage there, but I don't care. It's fine. Stirrings, and I wanted either a Bridge or a Needle, but the best I can get is a Fair. So I grabbed that. But I do have a Needle coming up. Yeah, opponent forgot to do Steel Overseer at the end of my turn, so I let him take it back. So they go for the plating, and they also forgot to attack. So I let them go back and attack. All right, so go to play Needle. Now this is where I'm, kind of doing mind games with the opponent. If they sack the Ravager in response, then I can like Needle Nexus, and Steel Overseer doesn't matter. If they don't sack the Ravager, I can name Ravager, and then I can still be okay because I'm planning on milling myself into a 4th source and use Fair if I need to. And this is where my opponent goes for the major misplay. Yeah. So they start sacking all sorts of stuff to Ravager and put it all on Inkmoth, which is silly because I can just play Needle naming Inkmoth and my opponent is like really screwed and decides just, okay, whatever, they've had enough. So it's actually a huge misplay. Now chances are I still had the game easily, but whatever, because I'm going to mill that with my Bell and I don't want to draw the Brutality. So game 3. I'm going to do all 5 of these too. But again, opponent has Grudge in opening, but I have 3 bridges and 3 mana sources. Now, something that's different about my build lately is I'm running 19 lands, so 23 mana sources altogether if you include the opals. And the reason for that is, according to the spreadsheet, openers with 2 or 3 lands are the highest probability of wins. So long as I'm not playing 8 rack or I keep a no land with the Leyland, I guess. So that's why I'm getting more lands in my opener than I normally do. So think my opponent wins this one, actually. Yeah, I have to take the grudge. And now I know that I'm about to lose my Lantern and a Glimmer Void, so I'm in deep, deep trouble. Yep. And that's going to set me back real far. I have to sack my Lantern, hope to draw a land, and try to survive. And even then, like, there's another Ancient Grudge on top. So that's just like a nut draw on my opponent's behalf. So we go to actual game 3, since they misplayed hardcore game 2. No Ancient Grudge in the opener. But I do have 2 sources plus the opal, and I do have a jar and a Pixis, so technically 3 sources very quickly. Yeah. Go ahead and stirrings, grab another jar. That was the best I can get if I remember correctly. Yeah. Uh, Tutor, Seal, Decay, and Inquisition. So the only choice was jar. But it's good, I keep it anyways. Now I start doing Pixis because my opponent's best threat against me is going to be like instants and sorceries like Ancient Grudge and whatnot. And I'm not worried about it. The only stuff in my deck that I can't get back really are going to be the Decays, which I already have one in my hand. Stirrings don't matter. And what is it called? Like Infernal Tutor, stuff like that. But that's already on the bottom of my library. I know that. But I do know that this will stop Ancient Grudge. So I have a decent chance of getting rid of it permanently. Go for the Ghost Quarter and Ancient Stirrings. I considered leaving up the mana to Abrupt Decay, but I wanted to get the bridge as quickly as possible. And opponent draws Ancient Grudge. Now, fortunately for me, though, I have 2 Welding Jars. Yep. Yeah, so it's still good. Needle, one of the 4 in the deck. I go ahead and name Cranial Plating. The reason I named Plating instead of Ravager is Ravager, once they sack all the artifacts and throw the modular or whatever onto a 0-power creature, that's it. That creature is not attacking again. And I am also holding an Abrupt Decay. So I'm not worried about that. However, they are only 1 colored mana away from being able to move over the plating. So the Ravagers are much slower. They actually have to build up a battlefield full of artifacts to make use of it, whereas the plating, they just need another colored mana. So I go to sack this, or kill the Signal Pest, because that's the only way they're going to be able to deal damage to me for a little bit, Signal Pest and Ornithopter. So that really slows down their clock, because that forces them onto the whole Arcbound Ravager, sack everything onto Ornithopter. Still exiling everything with Pixis. Because I also know that if I hit 7 mana and I pop that Pixis, chances are I'm going to have a ton of good stuff to put out, and they're going to have a ton of really crappy stuff. Like, if they get a Master of Ethereum into play off of me putting Pixis, they're not attacking under bridge. And if I get a Needle into play, then those Ravagers aren't going to be killing their Masters to get under bridge. Now, the Steel Overseer does increase the speed at which they can try to kill me, because they can start putting counters on Ravagers, and they'll hit 15 much quicker with that Overseer. But I'm pretty confident that I'll be okay. Yeah, Brutality, and I go ahead. At first, I think I was thinking about killing Overseer. Hey, buddy. And instead, I decide to kill Ornithopter, because now if I do Ornithopter, I already got 1 Signal Pest out of the way. That Ornithopter's out of the way because they're not going to be able to take that plating off. So that leaves 3 pests and 2 ornithopters. Has 5 cards left in their 43 card library, and I'm getting rid of half of them at a time. So I'm feeling pretty confident that I can just kill the ornithopter. Yeah, so at first I'm like, overseer, and then I'm like, wait a minute, no, ornithopter. I had to do a lot of like thinking and calculating there. Yeah, either way, they sacked the ornithopter for Ravager. Yeah, they go ahead and do Ancient Grudge on the Pixis. I didn't know what their last card in hand was, so I decided it's okay. I can let Pixis go, and I can just get it back with Ruins. And those 5 cards are exiled for good now. I don't really care. And if any of them are one of the 0 power creatures, yeah, that really decreases the chance of them winning. Yeah, they were thinking about the Master, and they play it. Which personally I think is a mistake, but it's a rough call. They're trying to add all those counters. Go ahead and Needle. Yeah, Needle on the Ravager. That's pretty much it. That's gonna be game. Yeah. So now the opponent wanted to play one more, if I remember correctly. Yep, one more sideboard game. So yeah, sure, let's do this. 1, 2, 3 lands. Spreadsheet says it's good. I do have Inquisition, Stirrings to try to dig for stuff, and Decay to slow down my opponent as well. So I'm happy with it. Now, according to the spreadsheet, a Glimmer Void is really good in the opener, probably because it allows for the blue mana if I need to. So I'm happy with that Spire in the opening hand too. I'll let my opponent go first, as playing it as another game 3. And they bring in Relic. This is where I explained to my opponent, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that Relic doesn't actually do much to me. Against some Lantern players, sure, but it doesn't do anything to me. Because the way I explain it is, yeah, if I've lived long enough to be able to use Academy Ruins and Relic to stop me, chances are that I'm already winning, if I've lived that long. So, and they respond, well, they can get a card draw in response, which, sure, which is funny because it turns out when the opponent does have a chance to do that, they don't use that ability. Yeah. I make them discard the plating. Because the Ravager, the Abrupt Decay, forces really tough decisions. I believe, I grabbed the Welding Jar. Other options. Yeah, Ensnaring Bridge, already had one. Glimmer Void, Academy Ruins, and Collective Brutality. I already had the lands I need, but Jar was something that I knew that I would need. I was kind of torn between Decay and Brutality here. So what I decide on is Brutality all 3 modes, and then lay the bridge next turn and draw Marsh, play Marsh, lay bridge next turn. And if I remember correctly, I knew about the Galvanic Blast. But what I wanted to do is make sure that, I forced a bad decision with Ravager here, and I'd empty my hand for bridge next turn. So they activate Nexus, turn it into a critter, start sacking stuff. Yeah, at first they were like, not Darksteel, but then they decided to do it after all, if I remember correctly. Yep, move it all on the Nexus. and I'm going to take some damage. I don't think my opponent knew that I had the bridge, so play bridge. And that's it. I still have to worry about Signal Pest, but uh, they don't have a way to attack under bridge. Like they can draw the Signal Pest, but it still doesn't matter. Now there's a Master of Ethereum, and they play it, which I think is a mistake, but it doesn't matter, honestly. Because even if they don't play it, they still need something to attack with the pest. Here comes another bridge. And so this is where they sack the relic. The whole point of the relic was to make it so that I couldn't use Academy Ruins, but if relic's gone, then I can use Academy Ruins now. Yeah, opponent forgot to lose life for tapping the Spire. So now I got 3 bridges in a jar. That cancels out both Ancient Grudges that I expect out of my opponent's deck. And I'm just drawing blanks here a whole bunch of turns in a row. Fortunately, so is my opponent. But now there's a Stirrings on top. And because I've drawn all this crap, chances are that Stirrings is going to get me exactly what I want. And I grab Ruins there. I could have grabbed a Lantern there, but I grabbed Ruins instead. Because that way I can always bring back Jar, and they already popped their Relic. Like I said, if I've lived long enough to have Ruins online, Relic's not going to do anything. Now here, something that I do have to worry about is the opponent, well, they've already started putting stuff on here. I guess they're still on the plan of trying to kill Bridge. But what they could have done was sack all this, and have a 0 power creature that they don't put counters on, sack all this stuff, put to Ravager, sack Ravager, or attack with that 0 power creature and sack Ravager and whatnot. So what I want to do is Needle Ravager here. Something else I could do is if they somehow try to destroy Master with aside from Ravager, then I can jar it, but I can't stop the sacrifice. I can't regenerate a sacrifice. So. Whew. So Pixis helps shut down that Ancient Grudge. Yeah, if I remember, yeah, Ancient Grudge on top. And I could have drawn the seal, but myself. I believe I get a needle. All sorts of Steel Overseer stuff. Now, because the lock is so pretty set, I name Steel Overseer because I'm tired of this. Like, I want to make it so my opponent does nothing but draws, plays a card, pass turn. And then at tournament setting, I would do the same thing because that way they can't, like, during my turn, I'm going to put all these counters on, then play for time. That annoys me. So use Shredder, grab back Infernal Tutor. There's the Stirrings on top. Stirrings, grab a needle. Going to play the needle. And this is where I'm going to name Ravager. That way they can't sack the Master and try to attack under bridge. Say there's an Ornithopter on top. And I let the opponent draw it. They don't realize like what I've done to stop their game plan. Because I don't have cranial plating named. So they go to try to attack, and I point out that their Master makes it so their Ornithopter can't attack. And they can't sack the Master to Ravager because it's needled to make it so Ornithopter can attack. I mill myself, and then I Pixis because I want to put that Welding Jar in my graveyard with for Ruins. And now that, I mean, 5 mil rocks, 2 of them are Pixis, the lock is set. But opponent plays it out a little bit more anyways. Yeah. Yeah, and that's it. All right, so I'll go ahead and record the next match where it was just a 2-0 as well. And I'll count this one as a 2-1 with some test games, and I'll put it all on the spreadsheet.